Welcome back to the Fantasy Waiver Wire. It's your boy, Tubby. With me, as always, it is Lee, and we are back for Week 11. It's Thursday night football, playoffs coming around soon, and we're here to help you with all your fantasy and trade advice this week. And what's up, Lee? What's going on?
What's going on, man? I tell you what, before we start getting a group of people in here asking for help, I want to acknowledge your Chelsea flag. As a Liverpool supporter, I thank you for them drawing with Man City. I wish you could have won that game, drawing 4-4 this past weekend, allowing Liverpool to crawl within 1 point. Liverpool shouldn't have drawn. Yeah, Liverpool's back with one because they beat Brentford 3-0. The problem was while you were away, Liverpool drew with the scrubs known as Luton Town, unfortunately, newly promoted.
Saw that.
That was horrible. And they could have taken the top spot that week, but now they're 1 point behind Manchester City. So we're not all about we're not all about the NFL. Just want to say I saw the Chelsea flag.
Yeah, man, that was a crazy game, man. I watched that City game right when I landed from Sydney. It was on, and I was like, oh man, let me I actually gotta and I'm looking at my Wi-Fi. I'm like, oh man, I'm not hardwired. It's still on my PlayStation. So
that makes a difference.
Let me see. If I start buffering, I'll have to switch over. You'll just have to,
Yeah, I hear you.
Bear with me. I get back on. But yeah, man, it was a crazy match. I watched that game twice. I watched it twice, man, because 4-4. It was just it was an amazing game. It was absolutely crazy, man. Just the Prem, man. Chelsea get back full strength. We'll see what's up. But I still think City has this is a weird year for them. Normally they haven't even lost by this, but they've already lost like 2 games.
Yeah.
So it's been a pretty weird year. But I saw that Luton. I saw you guys scored late against Luton too. I mean, like,
you heard about that. Luis Diaz scored the equalizer, but you heard about them kidnapping his dad in Colombia.
Yeah, that's
holy
insane.
Crap, man! These poor footballers, man. Dad just gets taken. They got him back. But
a lot of them deal with break-ins. A lot of them deal with a lot of that, man. Break-ins, kidnappings, like a lot, man. But that's pretty insane. That's pretty insane. Hopefully Dad didn't have a habit or something that I don't know. But I know they released him after like 12 days.
Yes.
Supposedly.
Yeah, they're being reunited. Yeah, they've been reunited. So you are buffering a little bit. I don't know if you
that's a lot to deal with.
Throw that hard wire in there.
My buffering.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to go ahead and take care of it now, man. I'm going to just switch over real quick and just hold me down.
You got
it. 30 seconds.
I can do that. Hey, for everybody who is joining or people as they join, thanks for watching us, whether you're watching on Facebook Live or YouTube or Twitch. Make sure that if you ask any questions tonight or need any advice, if you haven't already subscribed, please do so to keep the channel going so that we can hang out with you guys and do this each and every week. Big game tonight in the NFL. I think, man, the last few Thursday night games have not been very good at all. They've been they've been phone surfing games, as I like to call them, where they're just on and you're just surfing your phone waiting for something to happen. But this one with the Bengals at Baltimore, this is a division, a couple of division rivals, both of them coming off of a loss, with Baltimore losing that crazy game to Cleveland last week and Cincinnati losing a shocker at home to Houston, which shouldn't have happened. But Houston's that team this year. We have every year we have that team that no one expects to really shine. Last year, I think it was Detroit, where Detroit started to come on, and people were like, hey, take notice of Detroit. They didn't make the playoffs, and Houston might not either. But Houston and C.J. Stroud, Tank Dell, that group, Nico Collins, they're making people stand up and take notice. So when they knocked off the Bengals on the road, I don't look at that as the Bengals dropping the ball. I think of them as overlooking the Texans, and the Texans rising to the occasion, because it's that team's on the up now with Stroud.
Yeah, man, that's probably the biggest surprise of this year. You think the Panthers are kicking themselves for not picking Stroud?
It's tough because I think Bryce Young, I think he still can be good. I think we're demanding too much of these guys coming in to be good right off the bat. With CJ, I don't think anybody would have predicted that he threw for 470 yards in a game. No one would have predicted that at the start of the season.
Right.
He has a little bit better supporting cast around him, a little bit better defense. So I think Bryce, there's some rough, edges to be worked on. I still think that may work out in Carolina. Not right away though. They've got a lot of building to do. Whereas the Texans, they tend to have a lot of things going their way right now. But they took it to Cincinnati, and Cincinnati's now got to bounce back tonight and go on the road against a really, really tough Baltimore team that had been just running through people, and see what's what. Speaking of Baltimore, it's kind of funny. Somebody said this about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and it held true again this week. They said, watch the news media, watch the team of the week that is everybody's darling, and watch if that team doesn't lose that week. They did it with Detroit. They pumped Detroit up. After a while, they ended up losing to Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
They did it with San Francisco. After the Dallas win, San Francisco was everybody's darling. They turn around and lose to Cleveland. And then they lose to Minnesota. They did it with Dallas. They lose to Philadelphia, or they lose to Arizona. They did it with Baltimore. Baltimore was the flavor of the week last week. They were just running through fools. And it was like Lamar, MVP. And granted, I still think Baltimore is a great team. But it is a weird phenomenon. It's like being on the cover of Sports Illustrated, that old jinx. When you're the top dog, when everybody's talking about you, they're setting you up for a fall. They build that ego up, and you go into a game like Cleveland where they should have won. They start out dominating that game. The first half was all Baltimore.
I looked away.
Yeah. And Cleveland came back on them. You can't sleep on the Cleveland defense, as much as I hate to say it, because they got our old defensive coordinator there, Jim Schwartz. That Cleveland defense is playing really hot ball, and it makes me mad because I watch Cleveland games here, living in Ohio, and he's not playing the same 10 yards off the ball scheme that he did in Philly, and that's annoying to me. I'm like, well, all of a sudden you're going to go to Cleveland, and you got Myles Garrett, and all of a sudden you're just going to start pressuring fools and playing freaking press man. I want to kick his ass so bad. Jim Schwartz.
They look motivated.
Yeah.
Like the Browns look motivated on defense in general, man. I think that's what the Eagles are lacking, like on defense. Like we don't have like that nucleus. Our team all plays different. Bradbury plays different than Slay, and Blankenship plays different. Well, he plays similar to Byard. They have a similar game. Went to the same college too. That's crazy. Yeah. But our line is our line. We don't have really any identity when it comes to our linebacking core. The reason why I'm speaking to that is like when you had places like the Legion of Boom, or you can go to older Philly when you had B. Dawks. We kind of held a certain swag about anybody that put a jersey on. You're going to have to play a certain way because you're here. It doesn't matter how you like to play. If you're going to put on the Eagles jersey and you see Brian Dawkins and Jeremiah Trotter in practice, who I hope we get his son. I don't want to digress too much. But you see these guys in practice, and it went out and onto the field, and the Eagles kind of had that swag, like with Jim Johnson as the coordinator. Mm-hmm. You knew, and that's what our offensive line has become. Our O-line has become like a standard of excellence. Like if you're going to put on this Eagle helmet, if you're going to be on this offensive line, you have to play a certain way. And we have mishaps, but any guy you kind of plug in there, they typically do well because they know who's around them and they know the standard that has been set. We don't have that standard on defense. That's my whole point. And I think that's what the Eagles are lacking.
On offensive line, you ask any offensive lineman for the Eagles the secret to their success, and they'll all say Stoutland. They'll all say Jeff Stoutland, offensive line coach. And Sean Desai's first year as defensive coordinator, but saying B-Doc makes a difference. We don't have a guy right now that is getting in other people's face when they make mistakes and holding them accountable. We need somebody, as much as I love D. Slay, and I think he's talented, we need somebody like B-Doc. Sometimes D. Slay would have been burned. B-Doc would have been all up in his face.
Right.
Smacking him in the helmet. Get your head in the game. Jalen Carter could be that guy as far as the front seven, but he's young. He's new. But he's got that dog in him you watch the Dallas game, they were blocking him with 3 guys, dude. 3 guys, and he was
Yeah.
still getting around toward the quarterback. So we've got dogs, and Blankenship could be that guy. Byard could be that guy, but they've got to assert themselves. They really got. We need a captain. We need a captain.
Yeah, man. I think we would like to have dogs. But I don't think we do, man. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think we do. You know, I just don't think we do. Like,
Not in defensive back. Not in the defensive backfield. I think on the front, on the defensive line,
right on the D line, right.
Hassan Reddick, Jalen
100%.
Carter, Jordan Davis, Sweat. I mean, those guys are monsters. We need that elsewhere. We need those guys to be holding our defensive backs accountable. I think everybody is trying to be too nice.
Yeah.
When the defense does bad,
100%.
they all kind of go, "Oh well, we're a team." No, you need to get in Bradbury's face when he gets burned. Somebody needs to go over and talk to him.
Yeah. I tell you what, man. When the case in point, people are just going across the middle on us like it's nothing. Eagles are ranked 28th in the pass, so you can argue with the wall if you think I'm tripping about the Eagles secondary. 28th in the past. And this has been like this for about 3 years, it seems like. So when guys are crossing that field, how is it nobody that's just like going, I'm all right, I'm just going to hit you.
Yeah.
They just run. It's nobody around. They have zero fear. You can stop some wide receivers just with the fear that, Byard, Blankenship, sometimes those guys got to come down and really just lay the boom on dudes. You don't even really see big hits in any Eagles games. You go back to the Super Bowl. What changed that Super Bowl a lot? When Malcolm Jenkins came down and hit Brandon Cooks and put him out the game. But it was that Eagles defense that he knew the standard he had to play to. And our safety came up, made that hit. And it changed the whole Super Bowl with Brandon Cooks being out. Took his soul and he was out. So I just don't think, man, and like you said, who's going to get in Slay's face? Really nobody on that defense, unless it's a lineman, maybe Byard, but he doesn't have enough clout there yet to really start doing that. So Blankenship's the young guy out there. He's just, he's been becoming a little more vocal. I've seen some clips of him being more vocal because they know they have to play more aggressive, man. And then Bradbury, he just looks slow. So if the Eagles can't keep everything in front of them, they're in trouble, man. When you start seeing the nameplates, when they have to turn around and cover, it starts to look bad, man. It really does, man. And I guess I'm dying on that hill. Like, that's the biggest part of our defense. They won't hit you. They have to almost depend on drops, man. Monday night, I just hope Mahomes is having the worst night of his life, even though I have him on my fantasy, because I just know they're going to just cross us up.
Yeah.
And what's his name that went to Washington as the OC?
Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yes.
Goodness.
Yeah, they killed us last year.
Yeah, but mind you, Patrick Mahomes didn't get off the field in that second half in the Super Bowl.
No.
He took that same concept and gave it to Sam Howell, and Sam Howell just hit all crossing routes, and it just looked good. And then when you bite on the crossing route, whoop, over the top. Everything just looked too easy. Anyway, it's hard to not have the Eagles rant, man, especially with
this is a big
we're
game.
We're playing a lot of really good quarterbacks coming up, and they all have really, really, really good wide receiving core, except for like Kansas City. But everybody else can play, man. We gave up 188 to Lamb.
Yeah.
Like, come on. Slay should be following Lamb. If you're not going to follow the team's best receiver, then, man, just don't even talk to me. Don't even say nothing. Get off of Twitter. Stop, being too involved, being buddy with everybody. Can't wait to congratulate or talk about another player. I know that's how it is, man, but we need guys to lock in. Somebody got to lower a boom. I just want to see more this second half of the season or going into this playoffs, man. I just want to see more from our secondary. Our line is our line, but they've bailed the secondary out for years. I just want to see somebody fear our guys back there, not just the names.
I hear you. One thing I will say is Desai has not played as much zone coverage that kills the Eagles. The problem is they haven't been able to stay with teams in man like they had in the past, and they were staying in zone. So it's one of those effed up things that's just the way it's working out. I do think if we get Bradley Roby back, and we don't have the DBs worried so much about rookies out there with Sidney Brown and Eli Ricks trying to cover. The loss of Maddox hurt. Losing C.J. Gardner-Johnson, even though he's out for the season with the Lions, that was a big impact player on our defense that contributed to a lot of success. He was that identity, and he's kind of gone. So we'll see where it goes. But it does lead into, as far as fantasy, it does lead into the question for Monday night. Is this going to be one of those games that's a shootout where if you're a fantasy player, you're like, I'm starting everybody. I'm starting every Eagle. I'm starting every Kansas City Chief, because even if you, for like we talked about it on Tuesday, Rashee Rice, Sky Moore, anybody that's out there, McKinnon, anybody that you can grab your hands on might have a good game for the Chiefs if the Eagles can't get to Mahomes. And that's the key, is I think that the Eagles will pressure Mahomes, but Mahomes' escapability is going to be the factor in this game, and being able to find guys downfield. So not only will Kelce have a good game, I know Kelsey's going to have a disastrously good game, because the Eagles linebackers, if they don't, nobody can cover Kelce on the Eagles right now. Nobody can cover. No one.
Nobody.
So Taylor's going to be there, and she's going to be cheering, and Kelsey's going to have a couple touchdowns. So is it a high scoring game? Is it like the Super Bowl? Is it 35-31? Is it, one of those crazy ones? I think so. I think that if you've got some Eagles or Chiefs, or you need to go get some, because that's going to be a crazy way to end this week on Monday night.
Yeah, man. And I just so happen to have a few Chiefs myself, so we might as well.
I know you do. That's your game.
My matchup. I'll jump into my matchup for this week. As you can see, man, this is what I'm up against. I just dropped Trevor Lawrence too, man. So I need him to have the same game he had last week if he could. But man, Lawrence, I picked him up and I was going to start him against San Fran, but I thought better of it, and I was right. I mean, the person I picked up, Heineke, he didn't play any better, but at least saved some embarrassment from this T-Law appearance, man. When I really started doing some digging, I was like, man, he only has 9 touchdown passes this year. Mm-hmm. I was really taken back by that. Like, if you'd have told me that Justin Fields, missing 5 games, has more touchdown passes than Trevor Lawrence, man, I would have never. I saw the stat there. I said, what? He only has not. Come on. Yeah. In 10 games, that's 9 games, I think now.
It's odd. For them to win, they won 5 in a row, too.
Yeah.
How are you doing that with your quarterback not throwing touchdowns?
Exactly, man, because they play defense. They've been running the ball. Travis Etienne has been killing it. I have him as well. So I think that's been the big difference, is Etienne around the goal line, and he's not doing a bunch of quarterback sneaks like he used to. They're giving it to Etienne. But, yeah, man, I have Mahomes this week. As you can see, his matchup against the Eagles, Green, number 1.
Oh, of course.
So, still crazy that it's not the highest rated, but man, we'll see, man. But we had other guys that came in there with a high passing, and they didn't do as well, with the Dolphins in Tua. We're the only team to hold, I think, Tyreek Hill under 90 yards or something like that.
That was odd. Yes, that was odd. I think I'm hopeful for this game, but it's like, you know what? I'll just wait and see it unfold, because we know Mahomes. We know he's that guy. And they may not have stars, but they've got – if they didn't have Kelce, every time Kelce's been banged up, Mahomes has struggled. I mean, anytime that because their receiver core is so weak. God help us all if the Chiefs end up getting a star wide receiver, because then they're going to be, unstoppable. And their defense is starting to play really good, and that sucks.
Yeah.
It just sucks for everybody.
Absolutely, man.
If you're not a Chiefs fan, if you're a Chiefs fan, I know that you're in heaven, and it's nice to have that team. Eagles are right on the cusp of that, but they don't have everything. So yeah, I think you're going to. I think you're good this week with Kelce and Mahomes, of course.
Yeah. So definitely, this is a no-brainer when it comes to the quarterback. I have the edge here. Tennessee, they have a solid defense, and we'll see. I think he would need Will Levis to go off in order for maybe Lawrence to have to elevate himself. But we'll see how that goes in that game. But I definitely feel confident in my matchup with Mahomes versus Lawrence in Tennessee, just because the Eagles' passing game. Now, if I had a Kansas City running back, I would be a little concerned. But you have a passer, then you're good. DK Metcalf, Diggs, and he has Allen. I have Nico Collins. I'm struggling a little bit when it comes to the wide receiver core, man. I had to go ahead and bench Adam Thielen. He was running hot for a while. And then the last few weeks, these 2 weeks right here, just hasn't been really getting it. So no matter whether he had Dalton or the rookie, it was still, not bad. And he still gets 10 targets, but going up against Dallas, I just think I just think it's going to be a bad day for them dudes for Royce. And so I had to bench him, man. I don't want to, because I'm like, if they're behind, then they'll have to go to Thielen, trying to use some level of conventional wisdom there. And then I have Pickens, who since Deontay Johnson has been back, he hasn't really done much. Right. And I'm taking a little bit of a flyer. Guyton could turn into something, man. It was his first game back off an ACL injury, so it's first he's played this year. And I just want to see if they can find room for him in a heavy passing attack with the Chargers. But so right now I'm going with Nico Collins, who missed last week, so that's not good, especially with an ankle injury. So I'm definitely going to give him the nod on a wide receiver core with Diggs and Allen. That's just a ridiculous combo. When it comes to running backs, I think, it's probably like a tie here. Saquon and Gus Edwards. Gus Edwards is touchdown dependent. He could be a little boom or bust. Saquon, it's just no telling what's going on. And with them not having a good quarterback in DeVito, Saquon is going to be targeted. And Washington knows, as long as we stop Saquon, we can win the game. So I think with ETN and Singletary had a good week last week, man. With Dameon Pierce down, this is against a good Bengals team. 30, put up 23 last week. I wish I would have started, but he looked good, man, when with Pierce going down and him just having to start. This is a toss-up here. Andrews and Kelsey,
tonight, you'll know after tonight. I think Andrews has been good, but not great this year. Kelsey's Kelsey. So I think you got the edge in tight end. Andrews is that second tight end, but look, there's a 4-point difference there in projections. And I think against Philly, who cannot – what Philly's going to have to do to stop Travis Kelsey, they're literally – first of all, bench Nakobe Dean. And Moreau and Cunningham are going to have to double Kelsey.
Right.
It's basically it. Because you're going to need a body to bring him down. And so you need a linebacker to bring him down. But you have to have two to cover him. So it's that he creates that much of a mismatch. So you should get 16, I think, is a low ball projection. I'm thinking Kelsey's going to have 20s, 25 or more. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be bad.
I could go to that game too, man. I've been going back and forth about it. It's not that long of a drive, but I just coming back off of vacay and stuff like that, man. It's really hard to pull off. And then going to go see my brother and all of that. It's just like, man. So I really wanted to go to this game, man. But the tickets, it was like $250 the minimum to get in the door.
Oh wow!
So I couldn't spend. Where we wanted to sit, it was going to run us about $500. This is when we looked in the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
Not as of late. Kickers, it is what it is.
Yeah, it's always.
But Audrey, I expect them to score a lot against Carolina, so there's no telling here. Kickers have been clutch. Butler's been clutch for me this year. Defensive side, man, I like Detroit against Chicago. I really do. Baltimore has been getting ripped in the fourth quarter, so it depends on. They have to really start really fast. So we'll see what happens, man. I'm favored by 3 points, and I really need this win this week. 2 5-5 teams.
Everybody's 5-5. It seems like
he's in
league.
Fifth. I'm in sixth. So I really need this.
I'm 5-5. I'm in third. So everybody. We could write a song. Everybody's 5-5. Yeah. Hey, we got our first question of the night going into. Again, it's the trade deadline for most people, but this is also setting up lineups for the weekend, which is really important, especially with the game tonight. So he's got pick 3. This is from Connor LaRose. Pick 3, full PPR, which is nice. That's what we're in. Kincaid, Laporta, McBride, Scary Terry, or Rice. Well, if you joined us at the beginning, my personal thing is with the Eagles defensive backs and with Mahomes, the way they lit him up in the Super Bowl, Rice is almost a must start for me. I mean, they've got probably a lot of it's going to go to Kelsey, but man, somebody's going to get the benefit of those those crossing routes that Mahomes is going to hit all day long. So McLaurin's got the Giants, right? So that's going to be brutal for the Giants, man. Ugh, what's he projected at 13? Yeah, I think the Washington Commanders are going to take out some frustrations on the G-Man. I think everybody is the rest of the season, man, with DeVito at quarterback. So I think 2 right there. And I kind of, now I'll let you answer after this. I kind of like Laporta this week. I like Laporta, period. He's my fantasy tight end. But if you're going to run him as a flex, which I'm gathering that's what you are, they got Chicago. I think that's at home. And Laporta, man, he didn't come on in that Chargers game until toward the end, and he didn't get their touchdown. That was their other tight end, their second tight end. But man, this guy, as a rookie, he is one of the focal points for Jared Goff when he gets into trouble. So as a PPR, I mean, how many catches he had? 5 against the Chargers?
Mm-hmm.
Well, 4 catches, 5 targets. The week before that, he had 10, then 7, and then 11. I mean, seriously, Laporta is the dude. So those would be my 3 just for me. I'll let Tubby take a look.
So my 3 would be Laporta, Scary Terry, and just because they're playing the Eagles, I would go with Rice there.
All right, so we're in agreement.
I would go with Rice there. So McBride, I just don't know what type of rapport he's going to have with Murray yet. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've seen him last week. He looks promising. He looked like a real good, tight end. I was going to pick him up off the waiver wire as well. But yeah, man. I mean, he had that one game against Baltimore that really put him on the map. But look at him last week against Atlanta. I mean, 9 targets. That's what the first game with Kyler Murray. Yeah, man, I may have to take that back because they're playing Houston.
That's tough. Yeah,
they're playing Houston.
Maybe McBride instead of Laporta. I don't know. Yeah, I'm thinking it's a good matchup either way, because you're going to take a risk with Murray being his only second game back. But they're both. I think I don't think you can lose. I think McLaurin and Rice are kind of a must, and then it's kind of a toss up between Laporta and McBride. Looking at that, what he did with Murray last week. They're on the road, which is a little bit significant. That can come into play. But yeah, that's interesting. He is showing out, and the buzz is for real. He stumbled a little bit against Cleveland, but who doesn't? Cleveland has been playing really good defense. Right. So yeah, I mean, your McBride might not be too bad for you. So I'm assuming it's pick 3. So what, 2 wide receivers on a flex. So the other one might be your other tight end. I'm just assuming, but yeah, could be. So you might win either way. All right. We got another question from Alex Werzoff. Hey, Alex, he's been in the show for a while. If you missed us, we're back. We've been away for a while, both of us on vacation. So, all right. His question is Keaton Mitchell, who is the flavor of the month right now, super fast running back in Baltimore, or Devin Singletary this week, who had a monster game last week against Cincinnati. His starting running backs are on bye, so he has to have one. Now you're starting Singletary this week, aren't you?
I am starting Singletary this week, man.
But you don't have Keaton Mitchell.
Exactly I don't have Keaton Mitchell. Matter of fact, Keaton Mitchell's in a trade right now that we also have to talk about in a little bit, which is sus. So I gotta look at it. This is real sus, man. But Keaton Mitchell, the Ravens backfield is tough.
To know. Yeah.
It's tough, but he's definitely been carrying the load. But if you look, 3 carries and 2 receptions, he made the most out of them.
Right.
1 catch for 32 yards, and then 3 carries for 34. He's tough to lean on. We know that. Now I'm gonna bring up
Devin.
Might as well go to my own team. Now we're gonna bring up Singletary. Now, he's had one good week, but he looked good last week. Like once he knew that he was the bell cow, 30 carries, I consider that bell cow.
That's amazing.
For 150, caught a pass as well, too. Man, and Houston is always going to be in the game. I guess you got to know real quick because Mitchell plays tonight. I'm going Singletary, especially if Pierce isn't back. I'm going Singletary. And when you come off a big win against a big team and you play well, they're going to give you the edge here. Playing Arizona, man, Gannon's defense, I'm always against Gannon's defense, and they're third. So even if you look at the matchup wise, hold on, my bad. Let me bring this up here so you see what I'm talking about. With Devin Singletary, have him right here. Arizona third when it comes to running. I'm going to start him. I think he has a favorable matchup this week. Didn't have a good showing the week before, but against Tampa, as you can see, they were a really good run-stopping team. So I'm definitely going Singletary this week.
I agree, but it's a really close one because that game it was really weird with Baltimore last week because they dominated the first half and Keaton Mitchell showed out in the first half, and then it seemed like John Harbaugh just threw the baby out with the bathwater in the second half. It just like they just stopped trying, and you didn't see much of Mitchell, and that worries me. Like, what's the problem? He wasn't injured, so I think if you start Mitchell tonight, which you wouldn't be wrong to do so, he is electric right now. And right now, I think that the Ravens are in this point where just kind of like where the Lions were with Jahmyr Gibbs. Are we going to invest in this guy and give him the ball, or are we going to still platoon with Justice Hill and Gus Edwards? I think you could take Justice Hill out of the equation. He has not shown anything. Gus has struggled, but he's like their guy. He's their old familiar coat that they put on. I think they need to just tonight make a decision against Cincinnati and say that Keaton is going to be the starter. He's going to be the guy that gets the majority. Until he does that, you can't really trust him.
Right.
But it sucks when he has these big 40-yard runs when he gets out in the open field. And when he catches balls out of the backfield and he takes off running. That's got to be infuriating if he's sitting on your bench. Singletary's the play. And again, you got to watch the injury report to see if Pierce is going to come back. Right now, all signs point to maybe. So that sucks because you got to know tonight. So I'm with Tubby on Singletary is the more conventional. What does it say here? He did not practice on Thursday. So see.
And he hasn't practiced for 2 weeks on top of that, which is weird. They should have put him on the IR. You know, if you're gonna miss 3 weeks, if you haven't practiced for the past 2 weeks and it's already Thursday, then that is really concerning. That's why I dropped him. Like I dropped him completely. He was one of my draft picks, man. I mean, so ankle injuries can be lingering. Singletary had a good week. They're probably like, we'll see what happens. He can go one more week.
Alex, it's a tough call. He said he's going to probably go with Singletary. It's tough. Keaton, I'll feel bad if Keaton goes off tonight, but and that could very well happen because he's one of those dynamic players, which is kind of that boomer bust type guy. It sucks that they don't play on Sunday and you can't kind of keep an eye on it until game day. So you got to make the decision now.
Right.
I think Keaton may come in handy when he get toward playoffs and the Ravens finally realize what they got, which may be tonight.
Yeah.
Maybe tonight.
Maybe.
And then he's the number one guy going forward. He should be. He's that. I mean, seriously. And I say the same thing. I brought up Gibbs earlier. I like Montgomery. Montgomery had a good game against the Chargers, but Gibbs, if you watch the game from beginning to end, Gibbs got the lion's share of the carries. No pun intended. And Singletary had his, but he got most of his points on that huge run that could have been called out of bounds easily on that big run for a touchdown. So I think that going forward, I think the Lions really have to trust Gibbs because the one thing that he brings is that freaking hammerhead where he just hits the hole and he just keeps going. And you could trust him around the goal line. So I have Gibbs in another league, and I when he look what he's done the last 3 weeks.
I mean, these are Christian McCaffrey type numbers.
Yeah.
He's pretty good, man. And they have the team to support it. You know, you have the wide receivers, you know, you have the line, you know, to support Gibbs, man. And I think that's what makes because both the backs look good, really. I mean, both the backs look pretty solid out there, and that's hard to do. A two-headed monster. I mean, look at Gibbs. He is 99% roster now. I bet it wasn't like that at the beginning of the season. So yeah, man.
I did draft him in my other league, but I'm in a 12. That league's 12 team, And it was kind of like, okay, like Bijan, he was one of those rookies that you want to keep an eye on. But I think he was around the beginning of the season around 65, 70% rostered. And now everybody's got, how do you not?
Right.
But the thing is, like I said, I don't want to sell Montgomery short. Montgomery has had really good games for the Lions, and he's a steady back. He's the guy that can hit the hole and make the right decision. He's a veteran. He has been outstanding for them as well. I mean, look, the numbers are comparable, not as good as Gibbs over the last three because he's been injured, but comparable. Against the Chargers, he had a pretty good game. How can you fault 114 and a touchdown? So Alex got another question for us. So since we've got about another half an hour here before the game that we're all going to watch, Cincinnati and Baltimore, he asked about a trade. So let's talk trades. We're in the trade deadline coming up on Saturday. Thoughts on the trade he just made? He traded away Mark Andrews for Waddle. The league does not require a tight end.
Oh.
In that case, yeah, I think that's a great trade. Waddle has not been producing great. Look at his opponent, his next few opponents. It really comes down to who they're playing. The reason the Dolphins have struggled is they played some really good defenses lately, but I don't think Andrews is putting up enough numbers to warrant that. Look at that. Against New England, he had 25. Is that 25 points or is that projected?
Yeah, 25.
Yeah,
25.
Yeah, so 25, 12. So he had a little bit of Kansas City again. When you see that red, that's not great. Las Vegas, they're saying that they're 27th, which I hate the way Yahoo does this because really give us their ranking in pass defense. Oh, because that means that they're giving up the 27th fewest passing fantasy points to wide receivers.
Right.
But that's because Vegas has a pretty decent defense. So he's got Vegas and the Jets. But where Waddle's going to come in handy for you, dude, is Washington, Tennessee, going right into the playoffs when you're trying to get in there. And he could still be good in those games, those other games. Because just because you're playing a tough pass defense doesn't indicate that he's going to struggle. It just means that it's not going to be as easy if they were playing a weaker pass defense. So you always got to look at that, but you can't let that decide who you're going to start. Let's look at Andrews. He started off good, and he's had 14, 17, and then 6. He's got some favorable matchups coming up. Tonight he might have a good night against Cincinnati.
Yeah. I mean, he has a bye week, but he's all green going into the playoffs. And then
the playoffs,
the championship,
oof.
You have Frisco for the championship.
Oof.
So that's a tough one.
So I would say it's about an even trade. I think it's a good gamble.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a bye week coming up.
Especially if you don't need a tight end, then I see where you're going with that. It's just hard for me to trade away, just personally, somebody that Lamar is going to go to. He hasn't went to that. I mean, 6. These numbers used to be higher, fair enough. But he did miss week 1 because of an injury. And, he's still been really solid. But if you don't absolutely need a tight end, okay, I can see why. But I think being in the maybe like tonight would have been like good to have him because I think, Cincinnati without T. Higgins, they kind of struggle a little bit. But man, that's a tough one. That's a tough trade. That's a tough trade because but to the league's point, both of them are kind of done really similar things. So
you're just talking about
who you like in that trade. So if you like Andrews, get Andrews. If you like Waddle, definitely pick him up.
Waddle has a potential to have those 30-point games or 30-point weeks, where he could, benefit from that high-powered offense. He's had a 25-point game against New England. He's had an 18-point game. He's been solid. Look at the targets, 12, 9, 6. I think that they struggled against Kansas City. Definitely. That was a crazy defensive battle between two high-powered offenses, which was an amazing game to watch. But the game against Vegas, they're at home. That's going to be interesting for me. I think the Dolphins will do well in that game. The Jets, their defense is outstanding, but Miami's going to get multiple opportunities in that game because their offense sucks. The Jets, that is. So, it's going to be weird. So, on that topic, let's talk trades. and bring up the trade that we had in our league that you're that you're kind of think is a dubious trade.
It's
I think
sus.
it's funny.
He's gonna say it's suspect. It
Well,
is suspect,
I traded
man.
Tony Pollard for Aaron Jones this week.
Mhm.
And while people might call me crazy, look, I've dealt with Pollard all year and he's underperformed. He just has. So I'm willing to shake it up. I'm not even planning, I wouldn't even plan on, I might have started Pollard against Carolina this week, but after that, I'd have to think about it. I started Pollard against the Giants, quite possibly one of the worst teams in the league right now with all their injuries. And he got 5 points, dude. I can't do that anymore.
Mhm.
So it's like I asked for Kyron Williams. That was a no go. So the only other one I was willing to trade for was Jones. And in my lineup, he's not going to start. I mean, in my lineup, it's I've got Christian McCaffrey, and I've got David Montgomery, and I've got DeAndre Swift. So Aaron Jones is Pollard was really my fourth running back. So it was kind of like, okay, cool, I'll get rid of him for Aaron
Mhm.
Jones. I probably wouldn't start Aaron Jones this week, but that's just my trade. It's very simple, big deal. Now the other one you're talking about though, this is interesting. I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, man. I just don't see the point in it really. Let me see who Mel has, because here's the thing. I don't think Goddard's going to play until probably the playoffs. And maybe a little bit later if they absolutely. So here's the thing. I don't think they need him in the Giants game. Yeah, the Giants, whatever, and whoever else we play. And then, like, let me just look at it instead of saying whatever. So we have.
He probably won't play until week 14. He'll might play in the Dallas game.
Right. Exactly. See, he may play in the Dallas game. That'll be, it happened this week. No, when did it happen? It happened against.
It happened against Dallas.
It happened against Dallas. So
yeah, so
you
4
have
weeks.
1, 2, 3,
And that's optimistic
4.
at 4 weeks.
So it's a 4 to 6 week injury.
Yeah.
But I think it depends on how the Eagles are sitting. Just don't know. I don't know. The trade was a little suspect to me. It didn't really make any sense, especially for a guy. You're trading up 2 running backs, which are at a premium this year, for a guy that may not even play the rest of the season. Now, let me see if Mel got. Let me see if Justin Jefferson's come. I just he has Kmet and Goddard. So I'm like, man, Kmet has been doing this thing. Fair enough. So unless he's going to just play Kmet the rest of the season, which is understandable, but Kmet has a bye in week 13, which you probably still wouldn't have Goddard anyway. It just was, I don't know. The trade didn't make sense to me.
And you got Justin Jefferson coming back, but that's not a running back. So,
limited practice. Yeah. Justin Jefferson.
He'll be back very soon. Yeah. He'll be back very soon, if not this week.
Let me get back to the trade. So, yeah, man, you had Mitchell, who we just spoke about, who has a lot of potential.
Yeah, definitely.
Has a lot of potential. And then you have Williams, who's running really well.
Yeah, 21 points, 18. That, right. I mean, honestly, why even throw in Mitchell? I mean, seriously. If you're going Goddard for Williams, then that's fine. I mean, it's not great, but it's clear that somebody's benefiting. When you're throwing Keaton Mitchell and Williams, and all you're giving up is an injured, broken arm tight end, Ooh, somebody's robbing somebody.
Yeah, man. I was going to, I was talking to my boy, and I was like, I was going to vote against the trade. Like the trade was just like, it was like a bogus trade for me. I just didn't like it. And I was going to vote against it. It just looks like a bogus trade. It didn't make any sense. You don't know when Goddard. Matter of fact, I'll do it live. I'm voting against this trade. I don't like it. I'm just keeping it real. I don't like the trade. Hey, I'm my own manager. It's my prerogative. Hey, so
we had a league disbanded over trades. One league I was in. Because and honestly, it was because the commissioner was pulling shady shit. It was pardon my French, but it's where he was this type of guy that intimidated people into trades. That guy that would call you. Like, if you ever watched the TV show The League.
Yeah.
All right, you saw how they act on that show, which is hilarious. Where I missed that show
Oh yeah, it was a great show.
I cannot express how much I missed it. I loved that show. Taco and all those guys, Nick Kroll. But how the one Nick Kroll would call people and intimidate them into trades that were really bad. Really bad. And we had a commish like that. And he tried that crap on me, and I wouldn't even acknowledge it. But we would see these trades completely one-sided in the favor of the commish. And so we started voting against them. And they were overwhelmingly vetoed. And he kept doing it. And we kept vetoing him till finally at the end of the season, he ended the league because we wouldn't let him have his way.
Yeah, man.
I was like, dude, seriously? So while I applaud you voting against the trade, it's so hard because you've got to balance your friendships.
I know both of those guys, man, and the trade just doesn't make any sense. Like it doesn't make any sense. I don't even know why they haven't put Goddard on the IR yet. But it's just Mitchell. It's like an RB1 and an RB2 for a hurt tight end that may not play.
Yeah.
Again, like we don't know when it's a 4 to 6 week injury. And we don't know when he's coming back. They could hold him out into the playoffs.
Yeah, and it's not like Goddard was scoring 20 points a game either. Dude was barely breathing in that Eagles lineup.
Right.
So yeah, I just voted against it. It's a
bogus trade to me. And I'm voting against it. It's suspect. It doesn't make it's illogical. Yeah, man, it just looks like it just doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah. I just voted against it too, just for fun.
Yeah, man. And so I wanted to your point with the bullying, right?
Yeah.
Of like commissioners. The reason why Joe is no longer the commissioner in this league, because when I started, Outcast was the co-commissioner, and then I switched to Joe because I know how active he is. Then he started kind of doing that, just a tyrant, just disrupting. You know, I like to keep the league woosah. I like to keep it just everybody chill. You know, let's chill. But Joe is the provocateur. He's always just, you know, I knew this guy, man, since tech school, man. It was my tech school roommate. So we go back 20 years.
Oh, nice.
You know, it's not like, you know, my tech school roommate, you know, same job and all that good stuff. You know, just known him for a long time. Just saw him in Cali a couple months back. But he was like a tyrant, just trying to change rules. I'm like, whoa, man. Like, hey, I don't like this rule. Hey, I don't like, it may not be like your league, man, but these rules are good. These rules are fine. And people thought he was the commissioner. That's how much of a tyrant he was, because I gave him the money because I wanted to separate church and state. So I was like, look, I'm the commissioner, but I'm going to give you the money. That way you hold all the money and you pay people out.
All right.
But it'll be for the high score. But it'll be weeks he won't even pay people. It'll be like Thursday, like the whole next week is started. And it's like, yo, pay people. I'm going to get to it, man. You know, just stuff like that. It's like, if you could text me back, you could have already sent this money out on Zelle or Venmo. So it was just too much drama. And yeah, he put out a trade. If somebody doesn't want to trade with him, some bogus trade, he'll just start like bullying the chat. Like, oh, you guys are crazy. Y'all don't know how to play. He sent me a bogus trade earlier. I just denied it. Not today, like a few weeks back. He was like, well, you could at least, he started texting me all crazy. Like, well, you could at least put a counter trade. I don't want any of your players. Why would I put in a counter trade? I don't want any of your players. I don't want to trade at all. But he's like, well, give me a counter trade. I don't want any of your players. So why are you trying to like any players that I need from you? I already have them in my roster. So it's been a roller coaster with Joe, man.
That's all good.
But just to give you an example, like I think probably like a year before you joined the league or something like that. Yeah. He was an absolute tyrant. People, like I said, people thought he was a commissioner. That's how much he abused his power in the chat. Rules, you'll just see something change. And I was like, yo, why you change a rule? He's like, oh, nah, man, in my league. Well, wait a minute now. That's your league, buddy. And like I said, because he was handling the money, like I said, I wanted to just keep it all separate. Like, I'll just do rules. People need to talk to me, and you just pay people out. That's where it's like accountability as well, too. You know, just checks and balances.
Right.
So, but that didn't work out. So I was just like, I had to go to more of a dictatorship. As to, you know what, man, I got this. I think I can run it. I know everybody in this league personally. So I got it. He was cussing out people he didn't even know. I was just like, this is getting too much, Joe. People were starting to text me like, hey, man, what's up with all these crazy trades he said? He would just bully everybody. Like, so I can picture it. He would just try to give you players he was going. Remember, he tried it early in the season. He was like, yeah, he's probably going to drop those players. It was like Joshua Palmer.
Yeah.
It was like a bunch of players that weren't going to play. And we looked at this trade on the pod. We looked at the trade, and sure as shit, man, right after that week or right after he said, man, counter for some of these players or something like that, he dropped every single player he tried to trade me for.
Yeah.
That's kind of like, come on, bro.
Yeah.
Come on, man. If I'm calling bullshit here, just deal with it. Like, just deal with it. Don't fight it. Because, So, yeah, awesome. Man, that was the thing. So here you are for this week, going up against Outcast. Isn't that crazy? You're third, and he's 10th. But it's only one game difference.
I know.
It's only one game difference.
Yeah.
This week could change. Y'all could switch spots.
Yeah, not kidding. If I lose, I go right to the bottom. It's insane. Go from the third to the bottom. Yeah, I looked at his lineup earlier. He had to make some substitutions. He was making all kinds of moves this week.
Yeah.
I was like, Outcast did this. I'm like, dude is prepping. He's trying because he's got some people on a bye, so he's struggling. So yeah, go through it. Herbert, they're on the road at Green Bay. Herbert's been solid for me this year. I had Kirk Cousins as the backup, and the only thing that him getting injured was good for was that it kept me from making a bad decision. Because sometimes I would throw Cousins in there and he'd have a bad game, and now I don't have that. I don't even have a backup. I don't think I may have Baker. I think I have Baker as my backup now. And I wouldn't start him this week. I think Baker. No, I do not have a backup quarterback. I looked at him. I'm like, I don't need one. I mean, because Herbert's already had his bye. So unless Herbert gets injured, I'm riding with Herbert the rest of the way.
Yeah, good point.
So against Sam Howell, against the Giants, that's the problem, is that he's starting a quarterback that is really hot, and he's playing a really crappy team. So that could hurt me. I like Ayuk and Sutton. I think Sutton here at 9 points projected is being undervalued against the Minnesota defense that gives up a lot against the pass. I know technically they're good against the pass, but I've watched. I can do the eye test on Minnesota. And I like that Sutton is kind of Russell's go-to guy in Denver right now. So I finally settled on Sutton as my starting wide receiver this week, and I think that's going to help me. He's got Debo. I got Ayuk. He's got Kirk against Tennessee. So that's kind of even. I've got Montgomery going. I'm hoping that even with Gibbs, because I don't have Gibbs in this league, against Chicago, he'll produce. He's got Henry, who's been up and down this year. Henry's toward that part of the career where I have him in another league, and he can have 20 points one week and 5 the next, and it's just not. You never know. Najee's been up and down, but I've got McCaffrey, so McCaffrey's projected at 20, so I got the edge in running back. Tight end, I think it's fairly even. I like Laporta against Chicago. I think again he's projected at 12. Ingram's projected at 12, so we'll see how that rolls out. My flex, I've got Tank Dell. How can you not right now? I'm hoping this guy goes for 30 against Arizona. I really do. He's projected at 11, and he's got Boyd tonight, and so we'll find that out here soon how that works. Of course, kickers don't really matter. Tucker, Patterson, whatever. And I think he threw in Patterson late. Detroit against Chicago. So we'll see how that works out for him. I'm rolling with Houston defensively because I have been the guy that drops and picks up defenses left and right. I go by matchups. I don't think I've had the same defense except for maybe 2 or 3 weeks this year. I rode with Indy for 2 straight weeks because they had weak matchups, and I ended up scoring like 20 points a week, which was nice. But they're on a bye this week, so I can't roll with Indy. So I dropped them for Houston against Arizona. And I looked at Houston going forward. They just got some favorable matchups. I think Houston could definitely make that wild card. I think that they are primed to make the playoffs this year. So we'll see. And he's got Dallas. That one does worry me. I'd give the edge to him. Dallas against Carolina, they'll probably score 25, 30 points. And that's going to suck because Carolina, I like I said, we've talked about Bryce Young, but he's not there yet. They don't have anything that can stand up offensively to Dallas. Dallas is favored, I think, by 11. I think Dallas wins that game by 20 easily, if not more. I would say if I had to predict that game, and I hate Dallas, I'd say 35-7.
Yeah, it should be because like you said, man, they have no help. Like he has, every young quarterback, in my opinion, needs a running back. I'm sorry. I just think if, one thing that helped Hurts' maturity was the fact that they could run the ball. They don't need you every single play. Man, with Hubbard and Booby back there, man, they have no chance in hell, bro. That run game is abysmal, which kills Royce. So he's definitely under the gun, man. That's how he beat me last week. He had Dallas against the Giants last week. Just he's going to get points here. You just know. Yeah.
If you show the bench players real quick, I'll just show you some interesting. I am not starting Hawkinson, even though he had a great game last week. He's questionable. I'm going to go with Laporta. The big one is Swift. I could put Swift in for Montgomery, but I'm not, and I'll tell you why. Because I'm an Eagles fan, and I'm afraid if I start Swift, he won't do well, and the Eagles will lose.
Logical to me. Sounds logical to me. I get it. That's why I don't have any Eagles on my team.
I picked up Swift only because nobody was drafting him, and he was sitting there at the best running back. And I'm like, nobody's drafted him. And he's been outstanding, even in a limited role. They don't give him, look at the carries. I mean, he needs 20 plus carries, in my opinion. He had 18 against Dallas, but
it's always tough sledding against Dallas.
Yeah, I think that was pretty good. But against KC, I think Swift could have a good game. But I'm going to roll with Montgomery against Chicago and just hope that they kind of do that running back by committee and Montgomery gets a touchdown. And then like I said, I could put Swift in for Tank Dell, but again, it's a matter of a couple of points as far as projections. And I like what Tank is doing, so I'm going to go with Tank against Arizona, and we'll see what happens. Still projected, even with all that, I'm projected to win by 3, so I'm willing to take a risk. We'll see.
Man,
hey, but it's almost game time.
Yeah, game is starting. We're going to go ahead and get up out of here. Seems like everybody's getting ready for the game. Man, good luck on your week. Good luck on your week, Lee, man. You got anything before we get out of here?
Oh, I'll tell you what, Monday night's going to be stressful. We'll be back on Tuesday to discuss that and going forward in this crazy thing we call fantasy. More waiver wire stuff on Tuesday. But yeah, we got Thanksgiving coming up. Bunch of games on next Thursday. So a lot to look forward to. So yeah, we'll see everybody next weekend. Enjoy it.
Yeah, man. And as always, thank everybody for stopping by the Fantasy Waiver Wire. Go ahead and like, subscribe. All of that helps the channel, man, so we can get more of this advice out there. More of this advice. More of this Joe Blow advice, man. But yeah, man, come back and see us on Tuesday. Help you through that waiver wire, getting into the playoffs, man, and hopefully you make your good trades. Just like that, man, we are gone.